Yeah, that's probably more correct than the way I usually play it. Yeah, looking at the chart here and trying to use what I call the standard open voicings. I've done videos about these before from Berklee College of Music. This is a standard voicing for D minor 7th. It comes from this, root, what is that? Root, 5th, 3, 7, 3, all right? However, I chose to use the smaller version of that where you take away the doubled note and bring the left hand up. So you get a 4-note chord instead of a 5-note chord. And then reading the rhythm, I don't think I've ever actually read the rhythm on this chart, and I see that, it's pretty consistent the way it's rhythmically subdivided all the way through the A section. So I'm going to go over that also in this video, and also how to construct these open voicing chords, which seem to sound pretty nice on the head of this tune. So we've got the D minor 7th, and the D flat 7th is the same thing. It comes from root 5th, 3, 7, 3, the formula. And then you just take away the double note and bring the left hand up here. And C minor 7th here, it has the 11 on top, so I'm using one of the tension voicings. There are 2 sets of voicings, the standard voicings and the tension voicings. And the 11th is a tension, or an extension, or a color tone, but I prefer to call it a tension. And then also I had a little discussion recently about, that little dash to mean minor in the chart. D-7 means D minor 7th. And if you're writing a chord like a minor major 7th, would you put the dash and then M-A-J? I guess you would. And then we get to B7 flat 5. Okay, well, the melody is the flat 5. And in the tensions, you can look at that 2 ways. You can look at it as a, what would this be? A flat 5. Or I think if you do it this way, then it's a sharp 11. I'm not sure. I've never quite gotten that distinction clearly. But either way, whether you use the 3rd or the 5th down here, you could put the 5 in or the 3rd. But I think you get a little slightly more open kind of sound if you use the 3rd, D minor 7 and D flat, using the standard voicings. And then here on C minor 11th, we'll use one of the tension voicings. And I should link to all these. I'll link to the tables that you can use to find these chords. And maybe also the videos, too. Why not? Hey. All right, C minor 7th, and it's got the 11 on top, so we'll do that. And that's the tension voicing. Then you get the B7 flat 5. Okay, and on my chart, it calls it a... because this is the way I was taught, from a teacher. I didn't go to Berklee College of Music, but my teacher actually was a teacher there, and I think he maybe went there too, Mr. Ted Howe. And, the chart I got from him years ago shows this chord as being either the flat 5 or the sharp 11. Now, I never could quite figure out, what determines why you call it one thing or the other. They're pretty similar. One uses the 3rd down here, and one uses the 5th. Okay, they're both tension voicings, and I'm going to go with one with the 3rd because it sounds better. Okay, and we got the root, the 3rd, the 7, the 9, and the sharp 11, or the flat 5, if you want to call it that. Okay, rhythmically, this is where I kind of learned something by actually reading the chart. Every phrase kind of picks up with 1, 2, 3, ba, ba, ba. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, ba, ba, ba. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Because with Latin tunes like this that kind of play around on one note, like the girl from Ipanema, another example, people interpret it so many ways, and you can kind of just play any kind of a Latin type of rhythm on that single note, And it still pretty much sounds like the same song, though somebody who's trying to sing along with it might not agree. But anyway, I like that rhythmic consistency. So it does that basically twice. The first line and the second line are really exactly the same. Then we come into the 3rd line. Okay, and here we've moved it up to F minor 7th, and there's an 11 in the melody. So I'm using the same formula as I used back here on C minor 11 for F minor. Now, standard voicing for the B flat would be root 7, 3, 5, 1, okay? Like I say, these are good chords to like build new chords from. So you could, for instance, you could change the 5th to the 6th. That's another technique I don't think I've really gone into very much yet, but that, when you're building these chords and you have, say, a root someplace, you can change it to a 9. If you have a 3rd someplace, you can change it to the sharp 11 or the 11. And if you have a 5th, you can change it up to the 6th or the 13. So that's what I did here. I moved the 5 up to the 13, and I got a little bit hipper sounding chord. And it's nice that this note kind of moves right down to that G. Right? They call that voice leading. And then we're on to E flat major 7th. Now it says E flat major 7th, but I used a 6-9 chord. Let's see if it was a major 7th, standard voicing. Yeah, from there to there, I didn't move anything up here. I didn't have to. So that's probably why I chose to go like that. And use the E major 6-9 chord, because a major 7th chord and a major 6th chord are very interchangeable. You can you hear songs that go back and forth between those two chords, and if you're listening for details in a song, want to play it exact, it's good to get the right chord in the right place. But if you're playing jazz and improvising, both chords work. All right, and then we get A flat 7th. 9th is the melody note, so let's use a voicing. All right, I got 2 7ths. If I thought of it maybe as I have a 5th that I could move up to the 13 there, then I get that chord, and I like that one. I didn't move anything there, so maybe it'd be better to go. Yeah, that's good. I kind of like it that way better, though. All right, and there on the last line, it's just the same as the first line, but the last 2 bars go a little quicker. You get the C minor 11th and the B7 flat 5 in one measure, and then you got to jump to that B flat 6th chord. And I just, use a standard voicing, and hopefully my fingers know it well enough to get there pretty fast. Yeah, see? 1 6 3 5 1. All right, let's do the B section of this song. I don't know where my voice is today. Need to, lay off that stuff. E flat minor 7th. All right, we're going to the bridge now, and we got a kind of a contrasting section, and instead of just one note that we're playing for our melody, we've got the whole scale going here. So you got a 2-5-1 in the key of D flat, and this is how beginning jazz students learn how to play. They take a scale. In this case, it's the E flat Dorian scale, which is the D flat major scale, right? It's a 2-5-1 in D flat, and Dorian on E flat is the D flat major scale. So I'm just in D flat. I can start on any note, and then A flat. I'm going to Mixolydian mode, but it's still D flat major scale. So no need to really think about the modes here. Just think of D flat major scale. And get to D flat here and keep going on D flat. And then, of course, in my more advanced videos and stuff that you should know is that when you get to the dominant chord, the A flat 7, there's lots of choices for scales, like diminished scale, like that, okay? But this song just sticks right to the modes. It's all D flat major scale, so we can, if we want to think about it in a rigorous and analytic way, we can say it's Dorian mode, Mixolydian mode, Ionian mode. All right, but it's all D flat major scale. Every note there is in the D flat major scale. All right, and you notice I played E flat in root position, and then made an inversion there, and then did that there. And I actually used this to play the melody, because a D flat major to a D flat 6th. What I tell you about those chords being interchangeable. D flat major to D flat 6th, right hand handles this. And then we do the same thing in the key of, I love this, C flat, all right? Now, we could have done it in B, and then we'd have to call the first chord there a C sharp minor 7th, and F sharp dominant, and B major 7th. And, not quite sure exactly why C flat was chosen, but you know, it's consistent to what you just saw before there. E flat minor seventh for the first one there, and then you look down at the next one, D flat minor seventh, so you can easily tell, okay, that's a whole step down. And if they wrote C sharp, you know, could throw you a little bit. All right, here we go. All right, so it's the same thing. I'm thinking in the key of, I'm just going to call it B for now, okay? B major scale. All right, and we're doing that scale all through here. And the major seventh and the major sixth. And then a little part of that chord. And here's C minor 7, flat 5. The melody is the flat 5. The formula then would be, if you're going by Berklee College of Music standard voicings, or magic formula as they're called, 1, flat 5, 7, flat 7, flat 3, flat 5. And just going by the numbers, it's 1, 5, 7, 3, 5. That's the formula. Works for any chord. Major seventh chord, 1, 5, 7, 3, 5. Minor chord, 1, 5, 7, 3, 5. You could also maybe think about staying on that C minor 7 flat 5 when you play the first F. Kind of works. And let me just talk about that for a second, is that, and this is a good song to use as an example. When you see, like in the very first measure of this song, you got, right, and the last note there is a eighth note right before, on beat 4.5, all right, on the end of 4, right before the second measure. You should, in most cases, take that chord symbol, D flat seventh, that's there in the second measure, and play it right there on that last beat of the first measure. So you got your pickup notes, and then you got D minor seventh. On that last F, you play the D flat seventh. All right, get it? And you could probably use chords on every note. Like that. And then same thing. Yeah, you wouldn't like go like this. You know, hit the note and then the chord. You hit the chord on the and of 4, right? Half a beat before the beginning of the next measure. See? Same thing here. No, not there. It's because it comes on beat 1. Well, yeah, there's a place where you don't want to do that. Definitely the B flat though. And of course, there at the end, you see right there, the very last note is the and of 4. You wouldn't hit the note and then the chord. You're going to hit the chord all together there. Let's talk about reading this rhythm here. This is a good song to learn how to read sheet music and to see the rhythm. So we see there as the pickup notes, we've got a eighth rest and then a quarter note and an eighth note. All right, so, you know, that looks like 2 whole beats to me, so I'm going to count 1, 2 ahead of that. 1, 2, then that eighth rest is going to be 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and, okay? And that's the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and. Okay, look at that first part of the first measure there. 1, 2, and. I see a tied note. That toed note, that tied note, or it could be a toed note. That tied note is beat 3. So 1, 2, and 3. You got to say that 3 right there. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. All right, and then once you realize they're all on ands, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and. You know, you kind of set up your even rhythm there. Da, da, dee, da, da, da. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, da, da, dee, da, da, da. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. All right? Rhythm is probably the hardest thing about reading music, other than reading piano music, which is, you know, reading multiple rhythms, two different clefs, multiple notes, polyphony. Piano music is the hardest to read. For me, bassoon music would actually be the hardest to read because, you know, I'd be trying to get a note out of. All right, let's see what we can do with this song. Sometimes I start off. some weird stuff like that. Waiting for the band to get ready. Top. Do a little Latin rhythm here. You could do like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. I'm going to be doing some videos too about how to get that left hand more funky. Right there, you know, instead of doing down to there, I did something a little more professional. Took my chord, then all I need, I got all that scale going on there, so, you know, I don't need to fill in the chord that much, really. See, it's like scales kind of define chords, or do chords define scales? And, you know, I used the fifth there. I could have used the third. I could. I don't know which one sounds better. You decide. Oh, yeah, you know, I think looking at the chart, I always go to the B there, but, you know, if you go and then change, it, you know, it's hipper. You guys getting tired of that riff? Interesting thing about, you know, starting on D minor 7th here. I think, you know, most jazz musicians are kind of trained, or they see a minor chord, they think Dorian mode first, all right? But Dorian mode, you know, we're in the key of B flat, and there's an E flat and a B flat there in that key. And so when you do this, you take the listener away from the key of B flat, and you might not always want to do that. You might want to keep them thinking along in B flat so they understand what the hell you're doing. So Phrygian mode works nice, and that is B. We're in the key of B flat. This is like a 3 6 2 5 in B flat. So for this chord, just thinking the B flat major scale, or thinking Phrygian if you want to think that way, might be a better choice than the D flat dominant. You know, you can use a lot of different scales there, but I'm going to just use Lydian dominant because I know that that one fits pretty well. You know, and then C minor. Now here I can think Dorian because it's the 2 chord, and the Dorian in C minor is B flat. So, and then the B7th. The chord symbol suggests a whole tone scale, but Lydian dominant works pretty well too. They both start off like that. There's whole tone. There's Lydian dominant. Yeah, probably the best is Lydian dominant. I fall into the trap of thinking Dorian there on D minor quite a lot. And, you know, it's fine. It really is. But, yeah, should learn to think Phrygian there. Final A section, which is slightly different than the first 2 A sections. We still go to the F minor 11th. We do all of that. But here, instead of going back to our D, we've got D flat 6th. Let's see, what's the voicing for that? Yeah, there's the voicing. According to Berklee College of Music, standard voicings, 1 1 5. You know, it's usually call it 7 3 7, but in a 6 chord you have to go 6 3 6. Okay. All right. And then let's see. So easy too, because then you get 1 5 7 3 7, 1 5 7 3 7, using the same formulas here. So we've got. it says B flat at the end, 6th. So I could do something like that to keep the voicing similar, or I could switch to that voicing, I suppose. I think I kind of like doing that and don't even put a 6th on there. 6th is cool. Just trying things out. For soloing, we're going to think Phrygian here because it's the 3 chord. It's the 3 chord of B flat, so we'll think Phrygian instead of Dorian. You can think Dorian, but Phrygian keeps you closer to the key center of B flat. Lydian dominant here, that's the Lydian part, the dominant part. All right, some rootless voicings would be nice. Now, once again, if you use this rootless voicing for D, you're going outside of Phrygian mode there because you need E flat and B flat there. So you're not going to use that for D minor 7th. So it might be better to just do, don't play the 9th in there and don't even make it a rootless voicing. Keep the D in there. And here I'm using a box voicing for D flat, and I'm going to use Lydian dominant. And here I can use the 9th in the chord because that's Dorian mode there on the 2 chord. And then let's see how this sounds. First I'll try some chord arpeggios. I'm going to put B flat arpeggio in there, right? All right, because I'm thinking in the key of B flat. I can be a little bluesy in the key of B flat there too and play whatever scale makes it sound that way. But what I think I'm going to explore a little bit is the Mixolydian mode, all right? That's considered the most boring choice because, I'm in E flat now. I'm doing a 2, 5, 1 in E flat. And I'm going to use the E flat major scale throughout because first it's Dorian, then it's Mixolydian, and then it's Ionian, but it's all E flat major. And, I'm going to keep that restriction on there and not use any of those exotic scales to see if I can come up with a better melody, some good melodic idea. Let's see, I can do something like instead of not going up and down scales, to try to find some nice little intervallic motif or something to use, so. 2, 5, 1 in E flat. All right, it's starting to sound like Tchaikovsky there or somebody. Yeah, something like that. If you make it interesting, even a banal scale can sound pretty nice. When you're improvising, you don't want to pigeonhole something into your solo. But right here, if you can end on the end of 4 and hit on the note B flat, it's a good conclusive ending to your solo. So trying to do that. D minor. All right, like that. So you can end right there. And, the farther you go, the farther you wander, the harder it will be probably to get to that B flat. So I'm going to wander real far now. I'm going to go like this, 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 and that. All right, that's what I want to do, but I can't seem to do it.
Eis aqui este sambinha, feito numa nota só. Outras notas vão entrar mais a